fixes everything. Thank you, Dasha. I had to go get my hat. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I was having a bad hair day. I was like, this ain't working today. This weave ain't doing it today. It's not doing it today.
I was supposed to get my hair done. I was like, I gotta have it today.
You know, I was like, oh, Dasha, you done saved the whole dang on day. Yay.
Well, let's get into it. I know we've already got into it.
Right.
I am your host, Rev the Saint, and I am so excited to be talking to my pastor, my mentor, Melva, Dr. Reverend Melva Sampson is here on TTYL or not, y'all. I don't know what's about to happen, but I know whatever happens in this place, you are going to be extremely blessed. So let's get into it. You have to tune in to TTYL or not.
Welcome to Theology Talk You Like or Not. I am your creator, curator, investigator, sometime instigator, but definitely a liberator, Rev the Saint. And for a few moments of your sacred time in this sacred space, I invite you to tune in as we talk good, talk back, talk loud, talk smack, talk life and love, talk true, talk music, talk art, talk faith, hope, peace, joy, talk justice, talk God. Let's talk.
How are you on this day?
I am well. It is so good to be with you here, to be with the TTYL or not community. I am so excited to see this vision birthed and now manifested, living and breathing. I'm so excited about your work. You know, I'm just reflecting on when I met you years ago at the ITC, Shay, and all of the various visions that you had. And I'm just glad to see the synergy around them and the ways that Spirit has birthed them through you, and the ways that you continue, Reverend Dasha, to stay true, And I know that's not it's not always easy to stay true, but you've been doing it. And so I salute you.
Thank you. I received that. And I'm so grateful. We were talking about the PRC community and that I absolutely love. I remember I came here in Philadelphia in 2015. And when I came here, I came without really clear guidance. I dropped everything to follow this person that I was in a relationship in. And it broke me. 2016 was a year of like just being broken and being just excavating some things out. And here was PRC, a community. I kept on praying to God, I need a community because I had no community here. I knew nobody here. And I'm like, I need a community. And God sent PRC with community that I was very much familiar with, even though we were distanced, right? So we've been doing this social distancing thing way before COVID-19. Hello, somebody.
For real though, this is true. This is really true.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody is jumping into it now. Hence why I was really pushing back when God was like, you need to continue this work. And I was like, I don't want to look like what everybody's now doing because I want to set myself apart. And it's like the work that you're doing is already set apart. And PRCs we're already set apart. And I just remember that community just being such a healing space for me. And I want to thank you because you pushed me, Dr. Melva Sampson, you pushed me. Listen, I remember I had my final project's like, go back to your ancestors, go back, talk to them. You ain't doing what you. Yeah, you did. Push me. This ain't it. No, this ain't it. Go ahead and talk to your ancestors and come back with me.
Oh my goodness. You know, I think it's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, it's what our elders did for me, not to me, but did for me.
Ashe. Well, let's get into your own journey, because I think a lot of time people hear you, they see you, and they experience you in myriads of ways, whether it's in the classroom, on the altar, on the pulpit, or even in familiar spaces that I'm sure you're a part of. But we want to know, who is Dr. Melva Sampson? Like, what brought you to this knowing of who you are right now in present day?
This is such a powerful question. And I believe that, at TTYL or not, it is the same ethos at Pink Robe Chronicles, which means transparency is the key. Transparency, opens the door for authenticity. And if I'm nothing, I believe and I know that I'm authentic. So this question is so timely because I'm currently doing some deep emotional, spiritual, and even physical work around that question. I mean, on the surface, I would say I'm sort of what you see is what you get, right? On the surface, I'm bubbly, I'm matter of fact. I'm some would even probably call me confrontational. But confrontational doesn't always have a negative connotation with it. It just means I want to confront it. Let's deal with it so that we can move through it, right? Because we can't get past it if we don't move through it. And I speak what's on my mind. I'm also a fire sign. I'm Aries, right? I'm a lover of the radical Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, but I'm also a child of Obatala and Shango, right? And for those who are familiar with the Orisha tradition. And so all of this runs around in me and comes up and comes out internally. Who I am, believe it or not, I'm really an introvert. I present as extrovert, but I'm like really internally an introvert. I'm an only child. I'm my mother's only child. So I grew up having all of these internal dialogues. I grew up looking in the mirror, putting towels on my head, like I had long hair. I grew up having these conversations in the mirror, like what I would say to the people who were messing with me on the block, like getting my clapbacks together, practicing when I see you, of course, when I saw you, I didn't really do anything, but I grew up, in this very, I don't know, and like internally in a bubble, having witnessed some. My mom was abused in several relationships, and so I grew up witnessing that. I also grew up I was the fourth generation of all Black women. My great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, and me all lived in the same house at one time, and so all of this is like a gumbo, so that I'm strong when I need to be strong, which doesn't always allow me spaces to show vulnerability when I need to show vulnerability, to be soft when I need to be soft. And I've learned that. I've been with my spouse now for 25 years, and we've been married for 15, and I'm still learning, right, how to be soft when I need to be soft, because that other part is just like, what you say? So who am I? It remains to be seen. I'm all of what I just described, and yet, in the words of Reverend soon to be Dr. Shonda Gladden, I am becoming.
Yes. Aren't we all always becoming? And I want to share with those our viewers that some of these things that I already know, being that I am a follower of PRC, Dr. Melva Sampson. I would imagine that there are times where it's difficult. There are times where you need rest. There are times where it's too much. I have another question on top of that, but like, what brings you back to always coming back to this work and in tune with what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, Dasha, let me tell you why I'm bugging right now, audience. And this is why I just love to be in this space, you know, where we can just be real. I'm bugging because like you asking me the questions that my therapist is asking me.
Oh.
And internally I'm like, are they in cahoots? What's happening?
I don't be your therapist, I promise.
Right. No, but what keeps me coming back is the principle of reciprocity. Giving back what has been given. PRC is where I'm fed. So it's not just where I'm feeding, it's also where I eat. And I know that I have been in spiritual food deserts. Woo, my God, today. I have been in spiritual food deserts for so long, and my spirit has just been parched. Just thirsty, you know. You just ever been so thirsty, like physically thirsty? I remember I remember hearing this. I don't remember if it was in school or some spiritual setting, but someone said, you know, when you're thirsty, if you drink anything other than water, your thirst will not be quenched. Like you will still be thirsty. So even if you drink soda or pop, as we say in Pittsburgh, if you drink juice, you're still going to be thirsty until you get that water that's nourishing, that is just sort of quenching your thirst. And so what keeps me coming back to this work of speaking truth to power, to this work of living out this Nguzo Samba, because those are really the principles that I live by. Right, myself and my family, we live by, you know, those 7 principles. And what keeps me coming back is because when you live by them, it's reciprocal. Right, so you're not always giving. And this is why I had to make myself take a rest from PRC from now until 2021, because every Sunday I kept saying, but when I finish, I'm just full. But the part, you know, that you often overlook is that I'm full, but I'm wiped out, right? But because of what I see on the other side of the screen, like the connections, the ways in which I can see people, I can see, like through their typed response, I can see people getting free from things that ideologies that have been holding them bound, free to actually believe that they are who God says they are, you know, free to actually go do it scared. I don't care what's happening, just do it. Free to, so this failed the first time, go do it again, right? That, when I see that, I'm just like, it's like a charge. It's like when you plug yourself up, we plug in our Christmas lights. Oh, that's so beautiful. But outside, when it's not plugged in, it's just like, oh, there's some bushes, right? And so I just feel like PRC and this community is such a well-watered spiritual space that is welcoming and affirming, not just as political correctness, but as acts of resistance.
Yes.
And that's what keeps me doing the work, because I have to be in so many other places where that's not the case. It's like, I know that if I could get here on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. though, Eastern Standard Time, I know right here I have people that have my back. I know right here, folks is gonna text me like, "What's happening? Where we need to go?" Right? And you know, back to me being an only child, the other way that feeds me is because I always wanted siblings. Shout out to my I don't like to use the word half, but for sake of this explanation, I do have 2 half siblings on my father's side. We did not grow up, of course, in the same house, and we have since developed our relationship. But growing up, I was the only child in my mother's house. I always wanted siblings. Like I always, you know, wanted folk like to be around. And that is what keeps me doing the work, are the folk.
Ashe. Who are some of your theologians, rather dead or alive, and they don't have to have like a particular level of education? I mean, you know what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking. I know what you're asking.
Those that grounds you and not that influence your work, that continues to speak to you and guide you through your journey of life.
So one, I've since identified this wealth of divine feminine energy. I've been able to name them through the Yoruba religion of Ifa as the Iyami, the sacred mothers, the mothers, right? That presence that I've always felt, that I've always known. They're guiding me, they're pushing me, and they make me live into that divinity, in this sacred feminine energy. And when I say sacred feminine, I'm not talking about gender, right? So I'm not saying, I am really talking about the sacred, which transcends that, sort of in a trans marginal way, if you will. And then I think about sort of just, my grandmother used to say this, talking about gender. She used to say, baby, just keep your hands in the hand and the man upstairs.
Yes.
That was her thing. Just keep your hand in the hand of the man upstairs. So, I grew up thinking it was the man upstairs, right? That was, leading us and guiding us. And so I do my work for her. This morning I was just having some devotional time at my altar, and I pulled up my computer and my ancestry.com account, and so that I can remember the names and call the names of specific ancestors. And I got so full, Dasha. Oh my goodness, I got so full because in front of me, there's a picture on my altar that includes me and one of my now ancestors. And it includes me with my PhD regalia on. It was graduation day. And so here I am looking at this computer saying their names, all from Georgia, from Sumter County, Georgia, Randolph County, Georgia, Tift County, Georgia, and where I graduated was in Georgia. Yes. And I'm looking at them and I said, y'all had me to do this, right? So I don't know I don't know who they were theologically. I can imagine, right? But I know that they were people who believed beyond what they could see, because I'm here. Then there's Howard Thurman, the great mystic. Listen, what enough cannot be said. I think he's so underknown amongst common folk, and I want us to make Dr. Thurman just more accessible to the common folk. Yeah. The piece that set me free from him was a loose paraphrase around the sound of the genuine. Well, there are two. The first one is, what makes you come alive? Mm-hmm. Like, go do that, right? The second one is that sound of the genuine, that to each one of us is born the sound of the genuine. And if you don't figure out what that is, then you will always be dangling at the end of somebody else's carrot. And then it is better off that you should just not have been born, because you walking around here aimlessly, because you have not identified the sound of your own genuine. Friend, I don't want to be dangling at the end of anybody else's string. And I definitely do not want to regret being born because I have not bumped into or intentionally identified my destiny. That thing right there has set me up. I can never, you can never unsee what you see. And once you get a glimpse, Dasha, once you get a glimpse of that liberation, once you feel a glimpse how it feels to be free, my God, I know what our ancestors felt like. I know what our ancestors felt like, especially those who ran. I know what they felt like, and I understood what it means. If I could just digress for a second.
Yes, please, go in.
I even understand what our siblings who have been trapped by the prison industrial complex and by systems of poverty. I even understand what they mean when they say, I'm not going back in. You're going to either have to kill me or because I'm not going back in. I get it. Because once you have experienced the ability to breathe uninhibited, like when your breath is uninhibited, and I know that, we struggle around breath, and I get that. But once you taste that, I mean, it's hard you can't ever pull that back in and say, well, I'm just, you just can't do it. Lastly, well, not lastly, but just to put a pin in this part of it, is Ntozake Shange. Let me tell you something, whether it's Cypress, Sassafras, and Indigo, or for colored girls, growing up, my mom read my mom, my story time reading was for color girls.
Mm.
My mother was reading, I was looking to see. I keep this here on like a little side altar. This is Black Women in White America. This was, let me just see how tattered and old these pages are. I don't even want to, let me be careful with them because they're so gentle. This text, this 1972.
Before I was born.
Right. My mom used to read passages of this to me.
Wow.
Along with for color girls. She wouldn't let me believe in fairy tales.
Mm.
She wouldn't let me believe in a princess who, a Prince Charming was coming because she left her shoe, a wolf that was coming for little. If there was a wolf for her, it was America. Right. And so Intozaki Shange for me has just been, it's almost like she was an auntie. And so it's that last stanza on the last page, of the book that says, after all of the women have gathered together and after they realize that they have been missing something and that something was a touch, I was missing something, right? As they realize that as a result of the missing something, someone tried to walk off with all of their stuff and they were standing right there watching, right? As they realized that they didn't need another sorry, right? Nobody needed to be sorry again, as they realized the ways that they had lost love and lost life, and even in many ways lost this idea of God that had been forced upon them. Together they lock hands, they inhale, and in the exhale they say, I found God in myself and I loved her. I loved her fiercely. That's it.
Ooh, this is so good.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's it. What? And in sync. Because at the end of the day, Dasha, the searching that we have been doing, we've been always guided to do it externally. We're always searching outside of ourselves. And so I'm going to search this religion. I'm going to search this doctrine. I'm going to go to this community. I'm going to go to this school. And spirit, I think, is just always gently knocking and then sometimes clawing at us to introduce us to our own Christ consciousness, our followership. For those who, follow, who are Christian adjacent, or have been at one time rooted, it's about the consciousness. We become, our following is following a consciousness, not a person. You couldn't have been following the person because you're not Jewish. And he wasn't Christian, Ashe, right? So it is the consciousness. Again, identifying one and one's community as a radical subject, what it means for us to be self-determining, to determine our humanity, right? And then to demand from empire, from Babylon, if you will. Come on, Ja, to demand that we not only be seen, but that we have reciprocity. That's a consciousness. And in that consciousness, it unlocks in me that same divinity is in me. So what I found God in myself, I love her. It's that, and so whatever, however you get to that consciousness, whether it's a Christ consciousness, whether your consciousness came from, Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, through Allah, whether it comes from the Buddha, whether it comes from Olodumare, whether it comes from Yahweh, whether it comes from Jehovah, whether it comes from Maulisa, Mami Wata, wherever it comes from. It is an invitation to an awakening that will mirror for us the divinity. I think when I think about Mama Sabonfu Somé,
Yes.
We always talk about, her former spouse, Malidoma, who I say in honor to him. Mama Sabonfu, they come from the same, lineage. When Mama Sabonfu invites us to think about the agreements that we made before we came to this side of consciousness. And I think that at the end of the day, we all made agreements to really remember our divinity. And that our whole time on this plane of consciousness is an attempt to remember, to both re-member and to remember that. That's the work that we're doing. Because as we remember, we're picking up people along the way to help them remember. That's why there's nothing new under the sun. That's why what we're experiencing, all that we're experiencing is not really new. That's why, for Melva, there really is never any end of the world. There might be end of ages. There's no end of the world because we're all, it is a constant evolution. It is always, it's the cosmology that is circular. It's not linear. What the Western, tradition gives to us is you start at A and you end at Z. Right? But you do it going through A, B, C, D, E, F, right? But what our indigenous cosmology gives to us is, you might start at A and eventually get to Z, but you may have had gone down to T first, and then you had to come back through F. Then you went to Y, you came back up to B, right? And if we would just allow ourselves to fall into that, we would even release our prescriptions that we have on God. When we realize that this being, this ultimate spirit, this creator has already given us what we need. It is already given us. And I think another part of our journey, if you will, Dasha, this agreement is as we are trying to return to that place of divinity. This is why we're on the journey to remember that. And like, that's what, and I use Jesus because that's my rootedness. One of the places where I'm rooted. Like, when I look at his life, when I look at him, when his parents are there to make their sacred festival, to make their offerings, and they rolling back, Jesus is gone. They got to stop and go back and find him. Where is he? This dude is in the temple. Where is he? Doing what he's called to do.
That's it. That's it. That's it. For those who are just beginning the work of finding the genuine within, what is it, and remembering and going back and get it, right? Having Sankofian experience. What is a ritual practice that maybe you have done, or that you can offer individually and in community, to do that work for those who are watching?
So we let me just back into that, or move into that, by talking a little bit about what ritual is, or at least my understanding of ritual. So there are two ways to look at ritual, and they're interdependent. One is using Malidoma Some now, and Sabonfu Some, that we do ritual to connect us with community, right? And ritual connects the spirit, or connects the natural with the spirit, right? Ritual, when we engage ritual, it helps to unify. But if you were talking to a psychologist, a psychologist may say that a ritual is about repetition, right? That you do something, it becomes so repetitive that now it is a habit, and how we need those habits to kind of give us some kind of barriers, or some kind of grounding, if you will. So, in that way would be, I brush my teeth every morning, right? Or I wash my face every morning. So there's that type of ritual. But ultimately, ritual requires us, or the reason why we do rituals, because we want to invite presence, we want to invite spirit, we want clarity, we want guidance, and we also want to honor, and we want to acknowledge. So one of the rituals, that I do is pouring libation, which for Black folks in America, and dare I say the diaspora, we knew this before we knew this. and you already know where I'm going. We knew this before we knew this. We knew this standing out in the playground, you know what I'm saying, watching the homies with their 40 outs pour a little out for the homies and say, let me pour a little out, pour a little bit for the, for the folks who ain't here, or you pour a little, let me pour a little bit. I watched my grandmother before she pour her own drink. She might not say anything. She just pour a little out. Where do you get that from? Like, and not even knowing, just they understood it as just a folk way. Like, this is what we do, right? But not even understanding fully, or let me take that back, because I don't want to understanding the need to acknowledge and invite the presence for the folk who aren't here. And so one of the things that I would suggest for people who are searching for that type of alignment is to invite certain presences, not all. Invite the capacities that you need. So for instance, the first question I might ask is, what do you need right now at this present moment? Let's say I need focus, okay? I need focus, but I also need creativity. I am going to pour using either water, and either pouring into a plant, pouring into earth, or pouring into like a glass bowl, not plastic, pouring into a material, a natural material. And I am going to pour that water, or you can either pour some brown liquor, Ashe, or some white liquor, right? You can also take that brown liquor into your mouth, or the white liquor, and you can spit it out, kind of make it, I don't have anything to do right here, but you can sort of spit it out onto the earth, right, as you make your request. Here's who I'd be requesting. I would be requesting my grandmother Inez, who was a master seamstress. My grandmother, Ashe, sewed with no pattern. My grandmother could see a piece of material and you say, so I want it to be like this, and then I want this coming out, kind of sort of like hairdressers, so you just go in and you don't have enough hair for that, but they listening to what you said and they like, okay. And then they just finally say, all right, boy, I got you. Come on, and you finish, you're like, well, that wasn't really what I'm talking about, but oh my God, this works. And so I need I need that creativity. And at the same time, it requires focus to be able to sit down and bring a creation to fruition. So when I pour my libation as a ritual of invocation, it is a prayer. I am not just praying randomly. My prayers are pointed. I need focus, and I need creativity, or I need strength, or I need whatever it is. And so that's just one that comes to mind, that allows us to both invoke and honor. And people really understand what invoke means. This is why I said we're not calling on every presence. You got to be clear on what you're invoking, because I'm not trying to wreak havoc, right? I'm not calling for the ancestors that was wreaking havoc. I'm not, and I know who they are, right? I'm not calling them. I don't even call their names, Ashe, right? I don't. They're not even on my altar. But, at the same time, I acknowledge, when ish get real and it get hectic, if you will, I know who I could. You're not on my altar, but let me call you right now, because I need you. This is who I need to show up right now. You know what it is. I need you to come through. So
yes, altars for ancestors, altar for so one of the things that I've learned, I've since learned being part of PRC and these various circles that I'm a part of, especially Rise. Shout out to Rise.
Shout out to Rise.
My Umi, Pastor Handy, yes. Is the necessary separate altars, which I've learned. The altar for your ancestors, as well as like your prayer altar, your faith altar. And it looks like, if just looking where you're at, I see a stick behind you. And I know that's significant for an altar. Share who's on your altar, if you don't mind. If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking away because it's actually right over here. So I'm looking over there.
And the elements of an altar, because before you share, one of the things that I want to be able to folks to wrestle for themselves is, we talk about prayer altar, but then when we talk about ancestral altar, it's for some faith, especially the Western Christian conservatives, it's also almost deemed as demonic, and I want folks to wrestle with that and do away with that, deconstruct that, like break it down, like and the importance of it, especially for Afro-Indigenous folks like ourselves.
Absolutely. I have the space that I'm in is my office slash guest room. It recently became a guest room when my daughters got old enough to have their own rooms. But it was my office slash the space where my ancestors reside. And I absolutely understand the significance of more than one altar. I only have one though. And that's my ancestral altar. On that altar are ancestors who are both blood related and non-blood related. Both my ancestors and my spouse's ancestors. Also on that end, on my altar is a white woman. And it's important for me to name this, right? Because ancestors, first, let's just pause there. Ancestors are those who lived a particular way, who lived with integrity, who were not perfect, but who attempted to do good, who were meaningful in your life. Ancestors are not people who have now transitioned, who violated you, who harmed you in consistent and repetitive ways, who brought harm to you, to your body. Those are not ancestor. The road to ancestry is ultimately a road to a realm, and it is a realm of honor, right? And so if someone was not honorable, they are not an ancestor. So I think that that's important, because you shouldn't have just any old body on your ancestral altar. So this white woman who's on my ancestral altar is actually the dean. She was the former dean of the institution where I work, but she was also my professor, and she was also the director of the graduate program that I was in. But we weren't close like that. Let me just say, we weren't close like that. Toward the end of her life, when she hired me though, we were at a conference together, and I had been asked to pour libation. And I'd never seen her in this particular unit of this conference where I frequent, but she was there. And after I poured the libation, Dasha, she beckoned for me to come over, and she was still the dean at this time, but she was on leave. And she said to me, Melva, it saddens me that I won't be here, because she had brain cancer. It saddens me that I won't be here to watch you and to guide you through the process. She said, but I have one question. I said, yes. She said, when I die, can I be your ancestor? And will you call my name?
Oh. Oh, God.
Listen. And of course I was like, tearfully like, absolutely. Absolutely. So she's on my ancestor. She's on my altar. So I'm shifting my screen a little bit to right here is like a little shelf. I'm not gonna touch it because it's a little unstable, but it's my little shelf. And there are a couple people on there. Well, there's one person on there. It's my great grandmother when she was somewhere between 16 and 21, and then just before her death in her late 80s. And there are these books on here, one which I just showed you. There's a book called The Path, Creating a Mission Statement for Work and Life. There's Iyanla Vanzant and the Dalai Lama. There's also this card. I can't touch that. There's this card on here that a dear friend sent me of these two sisters wearing white. Her mom transitioned. A shout out, let me just shout out for the people and for you, because I want you to go see this. Shout out to Conjure Girl Blue. If you go to conjuregirlblue.com, Dasha, I really want you to go to conjuregirlblue.com and watch the doc short, Death, Everything, Nothing. Death, Everything, Nothing. And then her latest one is Precipice. Anyway, this is from her. So those are the people that are on my ancestral altar. I also see over there my great grandparents who were farmers from Tifton, Georgia. Again, when I was looking at my ancestry chart this morning, I pulled up my great grandmother's death certificate. And she died July 7th, 1930. And it looks like possibly she died of an aneurysm. She was only 59. And then 2 years later in 1932, her daughter died, who would have been my great aunt, died. And she died at 34. And she died of, it says, best information, pneumonia. So like they didn't even have the information on there. And it said occupation. My great grandmother's occupation was a farm worker, and her daughter's was a domestic. And then I went onto my paternal line, only to see that one of my other aunts died at 34, that her occupation also was as a domestic, and she died of a brain aneurysm. These things were on two separate lines, these Black women dying of hemorrhaging in their brain, of which would either suggest a traumatic head injury or not adequate care, and working in farms, under these strenuous conditions. And so I have them on my altar. I have them on my altar. I'm not asking them for anything. They're on my altar as recognition, as that I recognize that you left here way too soon. And I recognize that the conditions of this world and of this country were not conducive for your thriving. And I recognize you, and I have you on this altar. And even in this home, which I consider to be spacious, and even if you saw it, you would be like, oh my God, like we have come, right? I have you on here because I want you to know that I'm only here because you existed. Like I am here because you existed. And so a part of even on my, just to digress a little bit of my healing journey now, is because my ancestors, our ancestors didn't always, it should not have been a luxury, but it was a luxury to take care of yourself, to rest. Rest should never be a luxury, but it was a luxury for people whose bodies were commodified. Yeah. For people for whom other people owned us. But listen, sis, you already know we're not fully free from this because institutions still own us. The ways, and you know how we know that they own us. For people like you, Dasha, let me just like turn this on you for a minute. For people like you who emancipate themselves, whether you wanted to do it or whether you were forced to do it. It is the ultimate honor that you could give your ancestor, is to live fully into that thing that is running around inside of you, coming out the way that it's coming out. It is the ultimate acknowledgement to free yourself from anything and or anyone or any being or an institution that will not see you as a free Black person. That requires courage. When I see you, you are an inspiration to me. You are an inspiration to me because you believed that the ancestors take you seriously. And so you took yourself seriously. And you take yourself seriously. When we see the finished product of TTYL or not, when we see the film, when we start, Shay, that was good, We don't see the hours of time that it takes in creating that. We don't see, you in the lab making it happen. We don't see any of that. We don't see that you are providing space for someone like me, right? And that this is just as valuable a platform as if we were on one of these major networks. For me, this is even more valuable. And you are creating that. You know what I mean? To loop back around, and that's what keeps me coming back. I want to be a part of that. I'm a preacher at the end of the day. Let me bring it back around. And I want to be part of that.
Full stop, full circle.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Okay, I see what we're doing.
It's my dream, Dasha. Just, my dream is the whole media thing.
And you've been doing it from day one. I was just boasting about, so I do this pre-recording before my guests come on. I was just boasting about like, yo, I've been one of the day ones on PR.
Day one. Listen, I've been posting like old ones from 2016, and you in the comments. It has been so like cool just to go back and look at those and just see all of the day ones, and then just how we as a community, the ebb and flow of our digital Hush Harbor community, how we move in, and get what we need, and we move out, which doesn't mean we've left the community. It just means that our attention is here, and then we move, energy brings us right back in. And it's just, that's the beauty of it, right? Ain't nobody like, where is such and such? Oh, I don't rock with it. It's just, it's the ebb and the flow.
Oh my God.
Of that energy is just so, and that's how it's like I always rocking back and forth. So even newer people who are, who come now, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, bless your heart, and then if I see you roll in, if I see Roz roll in, Sister Roz was the first one who copped the PRC URL.
Oh, nice.
Back in 2016. Matter of fact, she emailed me to say, I'm still holding on to it. Let me know what you want me to do with it.
Wow.
And I mean, when folks first started sending me tripods to set my cell phone on, I mean, it's just
I remember those conversations.
And I'm
kept on moving,
and I'm holding. I'm like, oh y'all, wait, I can't hold it. When I watch it now, I'm in my kitchen, I'm doing 50 million things. The other day I was watching, I was like, oh girl, is that what you was doing? You was just out here. You just out here like, hey, y'all just woke up. One of them, like, since we've been in North Carolina, I was low-key so embarrassed, Josh, I couldn't even really like focus in on the message because I was saying, sis, what are you doing? But that was that is still the beauty of it, right? And I said, I was like, yeah, I just woke up. I'm tired. I look like everything I've been through.
Can I share you one of my favorite moments, like back in 2016, maybe around 2017. I remember you were like maybe in the kitchen and you had your robe on, and I think your husband Derek texted you and said, oh shoot, I need to like cover up or something. Do you remember that?
And he was like, you got your robe on? You got like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, let me get out. Let me cover up. He's like, when I look back on just the organic way this community started, I would not have wanted it to start any other way. I fear that I would have been too much in my ego had it started any other way. Remember we did Falling Out of Grace? Remember?
Yes, I remember.
I had to go to my office the other day and I picked it up and I was like, you know what? We just might go back. Like we might have to go back here. And the ways, Dasha, the ways that we supported independent authors, like I remember we did Anana Harris's Revolutionary Self-Care.
Yep.
We did Dr. Lisa McLaurin's
The butterfly effect or something like
it was
that.
like the development before something development anyway, it was her book that she had published independently. Like when I think, as I'm thinking about, writing this end of the year letter to the PRC community, when I think about what we've been doing, I'm just like, yeah, spirit, yeah, just yeah. And I have been, I've not acknowledged, I think, if you will, all that we've been doing. And I think it is this Western ideation of humility to not acknowledge when Spirit has called you to do something, and you're doing it, and you're doing it well, right? The ways in which, "Oh, I don't want people to think I don't want to seem, no, boo, like our community has been doing this. Like we have been out here in these hush harbor streets. I'm just thinking through when I my mantra is Intozaki Shange's, I found God in myself and I loved her.
I loved her well.
I loved her fiercely. I loved her well. Like I live by that. I don't always. I can acknowledge too when I either have not always done it or am not doing it, and need to reconnect. But it's almost like I could hear her saying, like, "Friend, you're not finding God right now. Like,
Yeah.
come back." You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson, the pastor of the Digital Hush Harbor Peak Road Chronicle. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, just all that you are and all that you will continue to be for us in this season and beyond. Thank you for being a mentor, a guide for me, always on time, always letting me know exactly where I need to remember and remember
Mm-hmm.
for who you are. Thank you. You as we close, I need folks to know she's not just a pastor. I mean, she's a giver, a giver, a giver. I mean, she gives so much. What you have given to me in the season of this pandemic and to so many others, people don't know that what you do goes beyond just what they see, but what
Yeah.
you do in the background, the scholarships, everything that the merch that she has, all goes back into the community. I was taken aback when you said that you see me as an inspiration, because you are my inspiration. You are my inspiration, and there are so many people that I want to make myself proud, but I also want to make my ancestors proud, and I want to make those who have poured so much into me proud. And so I'm just humbled in this moment. Just to be able to know you, just to know you, it is just humbling, and I'm so grateful. As we close, if you can tell the people, for those who do not know, they should know where to follow you, where they can get some merch, when they can tune into the community. Tell them all of it.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, first of all, I want you all to go to my website, which is drmelvasampson.com, www.drmelvasampson.com. I want you to get swagged up, get your PRC gear, get your mug, get your hat. We have a Kings and Queens line. It's a beautiful shirt that I love. One is, it says Womanist AF, which of course you all know is Womanist as fuck. But there's also, it has the one that says Queer AF, Black AF, Womanist AF. So just some very creative things on the shop part, but also most importantly, when you go to my website, it will pop up and it will ask you to subscribe. I want you to subscribe, leave your email address, right? Because that's the mailing list. So when all of these other platforms do whatever it is they're going to do, I want to make sure that I can maintain contact with our community. So subscribe. If it doesn't pop up, which it should, but we always have to have a plan B, just go go to where it says contact, and you can either click that you want to request me to do something, or that you just, want to ask me a question, and just leave your email address and say, hey, I'm just, wanting to leave my email address. So that's one way. 2, Facebook Live every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out. Check our live streams. We definitely want to see you. We're looking forward. And guess what? If you're not on Facebook, don't worry. We stream simultaneously now from Facebook and YouTube. So check us out on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. And then, of course, you can go to our YouTube channel, Pink Robe Chronicles, where you can find the previous live streams as well as other videos that we've uploaded. You can go to the Pink Robe Chronicles Facebook page if you want to just go down through the archives of all of the Pink Robe Chronicles since 2016 are housed on that Pink Robe Chronicles Facebook page. You can also follow me at Pink Robe Chronicles on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at ML Sampson. You can follow me also on Instagram at Melva Sampson. So all social media, you can either find me at Melva Sampson or Pink Robe Chronicles.
Ashe, do it. Go ahead and bless yourself and be a part of this wonderful community. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson, once again for being a part of our second season of Theology Talks You Like or Not. I am your host, Rev the Saint. We'll see you next time. Peace.
This season of TTYL or Not is being funded by Independence Public Media Foundation and supported by Good Pitch, Doc Society, and Love Now Media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, TTYL or Not, and click on notification for updated episodes.